I'm Debra Boggs of D&S Executive Career Management. And for those of you that don't know me or know our firm, we are an executive career management firm, meaning that we work with C-level, board level, senior leadership level leaders to prepare for and navigate their high-level searches. So we are not a search firm. We don't do placements, but we're like the home stagers to make a luxury property look expensive before it goes on the market, right? Shorten time on the market, increase final offers, all of that fun stuff. So our work typically includes, setting a strategy for your search, building an executive resume, building out your executive LinkedIn profile and your executive brand visibility, preparing a job search strategy for your senior level role, preparing for interviews, and then compensation negotiation on the back end, right? And so today is our first time having a guest speaker on our LinkedIn Lives, and I am so incredibly excited to introduce you to Terry Petzold of Fox Search Group. So quick story time. Terry and I met several years ago on a virtual coffee, I think, just through LinkedIn. And have any of you ever met someone, even virtually, that you just instantly connected with? You just instantly thought, wow, that's a cool dude doing really cool work in the world, doing business right, and I want to learn more about what they're working on. And that's how Terry and I met. Instant connection, instant shared values, instant, understanding of how we both go to market. And when he started his own firm with his wife, Emily, a Fox Search Group, we have been strategic partners ever since because they just do work so incredibly well. So quick info about Terry, and then I'll let him introduce himself here. And I got confused. So Terry Petzold is Managing Director of Fox Search Group, and they are a woman-owned, diversity-driven IT recruiting and staffing firm that is passionate about helping great companies find the tech talent they need to succeed. Their mission is to provide their clients and their candidates with an unrivaled recruitment experience. And I have to say, that is absolutely what they do. They do work so incredibly well. So really excited. Hello, Terry. Welcome.
Hey, Debra. Thanks for having me. That was a great intro. I really appreciate that. We feel the same about you. I think there's a lot of people out there that just want the right thing to be done in business, and you're one of them. And so that's why we appreciate the partnership. When we started the company, it was an obvious partnership to work with your team because of your branding management, your resume writing. There's so many other things you do and how you are able to help people get branded correctly in the market. And this is a challenging market we're in. And that's a hard job that your team does. And we thank you for it.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that so much. And just, as you've built your team, I've loved to see your firm expand and grow because every single person I meet on your team is carrying on the culture that you and Emily have built, right? Every single person does business the right way, is a really great experience for candidates and clients, and just really fun people we like to know. So if those of you that don't know Terry and his team, connect with all of them on LinkedIn, follow them on LinkedIn. They share a ton of valuable information on the market. So Tim Bashir's, Sierra, Richie, if you guys want to pop your a note in the chat for people to follow you. You guys all put out really amazing content.
Well, we really appreciate that. Well, this is going to be a fun day talking about the market.
It will. I don't know if it's going to be rainbows and unicorns, but it's an important conversation because so for those of you out there, I talk with candidates about the market every single day, and I know Terry is too. And this is a conversation Terry and I have together all the time. We're constantly talking. We typically meet, organically, at least quarterly, to talk about what's going on in the market. What am I seeing from candidate perspective? What is Terry seeing from a client perspective and a company perspective? What's going on? What can we expect? And how can we better support our clients and our candidates? And so in that, I thought, everyone wants to know this information. Let's just hear it from Terry, live, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about his insights on what he's expecting in the market, a little bit of a market overview. And then we're going to dig into how to stand out to companies, how to work with recruiters and things like that. So some of these things that clients and job seekers are always asking me, we're going to dig in and hear directly from Terry because he has an absolute wealth of information on this topic. So to get us started, let's kick off with, tell me a little bit about the market and your predictions for Q4 at the end of the year and Q1 next year.
Okay, the market, and I'll preface this. So I've been doing recruiting for several years, couple decades now, and our niche is in the function of technology, meaning the IT division or business unit, chief technology officers, innovation officers, data, and then all of the things, people, the CISOs, everything that comes into that. But when we're working in the US, just so you know, we are cross industry. So we're talking to every industry from academia to nonprofit to a lot of private industry, a lot of PE backed organizations. We see the trends of manufacturing and auto and retail and CPG and health. So we're always out there in the market, but our specialty really is in the function of placing technology leaders and building out teams. But this year, 2024, I started the year and I coined it the Great Frustration because it already felt that way. We had the Great Resignation. This is the Great Frustration. It started off pretty frustrating. It came off of 2023 with tech layoffs, a lot of layoffs from very large organizations, which trickled down to a lot of other organizations in the SMB, the small, medium-sized businesses. And that crossed industries. And then what we saw was the Fed interest rate issue, right? We saw a lot of economic instability. We noticed in Q1 and Q2 some light hiring, and then it really paused as we were all preparing for Fed interest rates. I don't know if you know, Deborah, there's an election this year.
Yep, and we definitely talked about that. And I talked to Tim on your team about the election too. You know, it's one of those things we've seen in every election cycle that 3 months before the general election, hiring for strategic senior leaders grinds to a halt. And it's so incredibly frustrating because all those roles open back up later. It's so frustrating for candidates and it puts companies behind, but that's my soapbox.
I completely agree with your soapbox. So we knew coming into this year it would be down. I would say we're down a little bit over 30% this year, but we knew that coming into it. What's funny is June and July were absolutely dead. And I've heard that from everyone and all of our partners too. This was the highest travel year since COVID. We had a pandemic a few years ago, as you may know. So a lot of busyness the last few years. But because of the heavy travel year and because of the more remote work this summer, a lot of folks were traveling. So a lot of decisions were put on hold. We noticed a lot of finance officers and boards really holding their cash tight, really focused on their EBITDA being strong, their cash positions being strong. We noticed a lot of technology projects across the board in every industry really started slowing down in Q1 and Q2. Not every project, but a lot of the large ERP implementations, a lot of the fun data projects, some of the AI projects that were really exciting. We saw data teams get dismantled at very large manufacturing companies. We saw ERP teams get completely dismantled, and we saw a lot of initiatives go on a complete pause, which then affected and rippled into the consulting firms, the McKinseys, the BCGs, Accenture, Deloitte. But it's been a frustrating market. It's been frustrating though, not only as a search firm, but also as a company hiring, because we're talking to those folks, and also most importantly as a job seeker.
Right.
The seasonality of this industry, it's a very seasonal industry. And so if you don't know the history of recruiting, typically the market's very busy in Q1 toward March, April, where bonuses are paid out. Typically before the pandemic, June and July were the busiest, specifically June, because remember before the pandemic, people would relocate. And the best time to relocate an executive is during the summer because they have family and they've got to move. Well, so things started changing quite a bit. You usually have a little bit of a hiring frenzy in September for Q3, and then some pausing as you go through the year. This year, it was dead during the summer. Q1 and Q2 were okay. It got really busy the first and second week of August. Let me rephrase that. It got busy, not really busy. And there was a frenzy of activity for about 8 weeks through August and September. It has
a lot of roles.
It has slowed down. There's no question. In fact, I would just recommend to anyone, I'm not joking, let's just not talk for the next week until the election is over.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's just nothing that we can do at this point. A lot of decisions are on pause because of the election. But here's the beauty of it. We had a rough year. I only see optimism for next year. And I really mean that. Do I still see trends, recessionary spending, and some of those trends in certain industries that may go up or down? Yes. There are certain industries that are spiking more than others. However, generally, most companies need to hire. Most projects have been put on hold. All of our transformation projects, the big ones, have been put on hold.
Yep.
And you know, a lot of data projects, talking about data, which is so synergistic to AI. We all know AI is big. It's coming.
Right.
It's already been here. A lot of my executives at companies are already implementing AI strategies, but that is the future. And we're going to have to work towards that and make sure that we're acquiring those skills. I believe truly that next year will be busier. I can't speak to the macroeconomic issues, you know, what we're dealing with the Middle East and what we're dealing with in other countries, but I can say that most private companies and publicly held companies need to spend money to invest in their future workforce. They also need to spend money to hire more people and to really turn on some of those projects that they've paused. Unfortunately, there are certain functions such as HR, finance, and accounting that are going to be impacted by AI. I don't think they'll be impacted as much as it's been said in the news the last year, but I think there will be impacts. And so this is a tough year going into 2025. And we can either be negative about it, which I want to be, or we can be positive and embrace it. And it's going to be a big year. You know, what I've noticed this year, it's a little disheartening. Most companies are focused on customer experience, right? Everything from Amazon to my company. What is my customer experience? And I think what we've lost this year is the employee or the prospective employee experience is gone. Anyone that's listening, if you've applied to even one job this year, it's funny to use the term ghosting now.
Yeah.
Because that is a word even my father, who's retired, uses. He said, ghosted. What?
Yeah. And on brand for Halloween. Happy Halloween, everyone.
Perfect timing. The ghosting has got to stop. It's so unprofessional. Is it a system issue? Yeah, it's a system issue. Is it a process issue? Yes, it's a process issue. Is it an issue we're trying to deal with as recruiters? Yes. One of our key drivers as we go into next year is having the best candidate experience ever and managing that relationship, not only from its inception, but all the way through life. That's really important for us. I think companies have done a really poor job of understanding what their future employee experience should be. I don't know about you, but if I apply to some companies that I really wanted to work at and I'm ghosted, or maybe I'm put through a 12-week interview process and then ghosted,
yes,
I don't know if I want to buy their product anymore. Right. So this is actually creating a much larger effect on a larger scale with social media and the younger generation. Goodness, they can within one day assemble and really mess up the branding of a company. We've seen this happen in good and bad ways, but we really need to look as executives at our company, wherever we are, or even if we aren't there now, when we go to our next company, it's going to take all of us to get involved and say, let's look at the experience of getting a job at our company. And what is that?
What does this look like? And what does everything from that initial contact into onboarding look like for that candidate and employee experience? It's so incredibly important. And so I love a couple of things you said. Optimism for the market. I would love some optimism because I know you and I both, prior to the pandemic, I could say I wouldn't mind and was, you know, quoted in major media outlets about what was going to happen in the next quarter, right? I could tell you like clockwork, here's what's going to happen. Here's what candidates can expect. Here's what companies can expect. We can't do that anymore. The pendulum has been so wildly swinging every direction in the job market that it's just really hard to say, I'll go on record and tell you X. But I do agree with you that now that the election is over, my prediction is that the holiday hiring market is going to be a little busier because they're still going to need to fill some of those roles they put on pause.
Yes.
And that Q1 is going to look good. And for anybody looking for a role and you're thinking, okay, your bonus is going to come in April, right, or March. Let's not wait until April or March to start your job search, because the executive search is hard, right? It's a challenging market, and that means it doesn't mean you're not going to get a job. It means that you have to show up differently for your search, and you have to compete at a much higher level. And so how do you compete for that? And you need to start setting up and starting your search much earlier, because what we see is candidates will wait until their bonus, then they'll start their search. It'll take 6 months. They won't find anything. Now they'll get too far into the year and they don't want to lose their bonus, right? So they'll wait again, and you go around the calendar year again. And this keeps happening, and then you keep staying stuck in the same role. So if that's something that you're facing, let's start early. Looking at that in November, December for a bonus that comes out in April is a much better way to think about it than maybe thinking about it starting in April. So I know we spent a lot of time on that topic, but it's a really important topic around what we're seeing in the market and then how we can compete. So let's talk about this, because I know the pendulum has been swinging wildly in what companies we're looking for, right? It always changes depending on the market. If it's a job seekers market, they'll get a lot more, lax about the specific skills and experience. So tell me, Terry, in this market, how do you stand out to a company? What are companies looking for right now?
Boy, that's a loaded question. I want to echo what you said earlier. This, I hope everyone hears me on this. And it's not easy to say this, but what worked in the past will not work anymore. It just won't. It won't. I've been in the industry since the 90s, right? So I'm in my mid to late 40s. There's a lot of people like me out there. It's just not the same. It's going to take different kind of work, and it's all work that we can do. But it starts before the job process change, and that's with relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We have really lost relationships. We focused on those for so many years. We focused on it in sales roles. We focused on it as executives. We're having challenges with that because of the pandemic, because of a lot of political issues and a lot of bipolar type personalities out there. But what I'm noticing is that what hasn't worked is the old way, which is I'm going to maybe call a recruiter a month before I want to get a job, maybe in March for my exit. And by the way, I've got 1 or 2 resumes, and I'm going to play with it a little bit, and I'll call a recruiter or 2, but I'm going to try to handle this on my own and apply to as many jobs, and I'll use my LinkedIn network. And that's what most people do. That is just not going to work. Number one, you cannot put all your eggs in one basket. It does take a village, in my opinion.
100%.
It takes a partnership with your team for resumes. Do people need multiple resumes? Absolutely. Why? Because we have AI. Do systems pull out keywords of applicants? Absolutely. Do we love that? No, but we still have to manage that.
Right.
It also is a new market as we go into next year. So the average C-suite job that gets posted, especially in IT, a CIO position, if you and I posted that position right now, let's say it's in Dallas or anywhere in the US, you and I are going to have 1,000 applicants to deal with tomorrow morning.
Right.
More than 60% of those applicants should have never applied anyways.
Right.
40% of them are going to be a little bit gray. We're going to have to go and weed through that. That's going to take you and I, even with the best AI systems, dozens and dozens of hours. And then you and I, if we don't already know the people, have to interview every single one.
Right.
If we have to do that, that's what companies have to do. And that's when we post a role, if we post a role, which we really don't do that often.
Okay. Can you say that for the people in the back? You're not posting your roles.
Yeah.
Can you hear that again?
You're not posting your roles. 90% of people that would apply to a role that we would post are going to be very qualified folks, because I'm doing it in my inside network. When a company posts a role, you're getting global applications and you're getting a lot of muck, right?
Yeah.
Because of that, and because there is a broken system and a broken process out there, we have to apply, but we also have to remember that it's going to take a lot of relationships. You said it earlier, get to recruiters earlier. I'll never forget a really good friend of mine who's a CIO of a company a few years ago after COVID said, Terry, I made a big mistake. I haven't been talking to recruiters for years. Why? Because we're known as the car salesman. We're just out there to get you, or we just want to sell you, right? I don't have any interest in that. I just want to know who you are so we can help work with you in the future or help you find people. But if you're not talking to recruiters, because we're in the market every day, we're in specific industries, we're in specific geographies, we know what offers are working and what not. We know what benefits are working and what's not, just like you do. You got to get in front of the market early and start having those discussions with recruiters to start to lean into which direction should I go, because there is seasonality in the market. Every quarter is different. And I will tell you, as a recruiting firm owner, I usually can only see about 6 to 9 months out. Right. But that means I have to always be looking 6 to 9 months out. And if you come to me a month before you need a job, it's going to be too late. The interview process is so long right now. It absolutely is the longest it's ever been. And a lot of that is because companies don't know what they're doing. They shouldn't be hiring, or they don't know if they should hire. They don't have budget. There's so many issues. TA teams have been really put through the ringer. A lot of talent acquisition teams are a fraction of what they used to be. But it's going to take a lot of folks. It's going to take recruiting agencies, mine and others. It's going to take career coaching organizations like yours. It's going to take a lot of networking, a lot of relationship building. It is going to those events that you really don't want to. It's going to that local Gartner event. It's going to speak. It's mentorship. Yeah. We need to get back to developing relationships, because that is how you can get a job in this particular market. Okay. The way people get a job in this market is through leveraging relationships that either we have, you have, or others have. Because if we post a job and there's 1,000 applicants, but then you tell me that Susie just applied, I'm going to throw away the other 1,000 and just call Susie. And a lot of people are frustrated about that because, well, I didn't have a relationship. Well, go get a relationship. Let's start there. Let's start to build that. The future of what companies are looking for is highly skilled professionals and executives. Yeah. I can't stress soft skills enough. I just can't. We all know, I have 3 kids. You have children. Everyone has children. We are all nervous. We're all screaming about are the kids going to get a job? It takes us as parents. We need to start right in the home. But there is a major gap in the social skills and soft skills of the incoming generation. And so we can yell at everyone and get very frustrated, or we can start to mentor them and coach them so that we're more successful. I can't stress enough how important specialization is.
Yes. And this is something you and I talk about a lot, and we're constantly advising our clients on. And especially, I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about the specialization. And I know I cut you off to talk about how I want you to talk about it, but it's something that we see candidates, they want to be all the things, right? And they don't want to limit their opportunities, but you can't be all the things to all the people. And the more specialized you are, the more attractive you actually are in the market. And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what companies are looking for in terms of that specialization.
This is a hard one too. And it's a hard for me because I remember when I left the corporate world, I was running a software organization. I left the corporate world and I went to an executive coach like you. I think I reused the ladders. I paid for a lot of money to get my resume out there. And I had multiple resumes, right? We all want that. Do we use specific technologies? Do we want to highlight my executive? Do we want to what about my title, right? We've got to worry about title. Because by the way, if I apply to a C-suite role and I'm a manager, I'm never getting that role. And if I apply to a director role, but I'm a C-suite, I'm not going to get that role. So this is how static and black and white the market has become. And that's not how the market works. You have to specialize. And while it feels right to have one general resume with executive transformation, right? And by the way, from the IT perspective, we are so tired of hearing digital transformation. We just need to come up with something else.
That's
everyone
happening in the board space too.
everyone's digitally transforming, right? But I will tell you this: when I work with C-suite specifically,
Yeah.
folks have a hard time differentiating themselves. I already know you're a C-level officer. I already know you've got a large team. I want to understand the challenge you came into and how did you fix it and what were the results, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know the specific people, processes, technology, the budget, what industries were you considering? What was the candidate experience? What was the customer experience? I like to look at all those challenges because then I can go and market you or sell your experience to other companies.
Right.
I can't take 5 CIOs that have all done digital transformation for very large and medium-sized companies and then just say, hey, I've got 5 great CIOs. They all look the same on paper, right? Now, in the old days, that might work. And it will still work somewhat because people want an overall great executive, but we've got to specialize. And it feels wrong sometimes, Deborah, because then we're thinking, okay, if I specialize in this, I'm going to lose out on other opportunities.
Yep. It's uncomfortable. You feel like you're limiting the market, but that specialization is where the magic is, because then you're standing out. Because, and I want everyone to look at their resume real quick. And I know there are several people on the call now that have heard me say this, but if your resume starts with seasoned executive with proven results and 25 years of experience doing XYZ, everybody else's resume starts there. Every single person. That's not differentiating you. That's table stakes to be at the level you're at. That's not anything that's going to make you stand out in this market.
Absolutely. You know, I think it's we're all going to have to acquire some new skills. If you're slow to chat GBT, just listen to me. Spend the holidays and get into it. Talk to others. Use it to teach you. According to Forbes' most recent study, 64% of businesses believe that AI will increase productivity. Most companies are already initiating corporate-wide AI initiatives. If your day consists of how you used to live your day before the pandemic, come into an office, come into the home office, let's get into that later, remote work, checking emails, that's just not it. You have to be a highly skilled executive and professional with the ability to automate as many of the mundane tasks that you possibly can, just in your own world, not in your company, but just in your own world. And if you're on the market, we do need to be using ChatGPT. However, the resume incidents that we're seeing with ChatGPT need to be cautioned. I can't tell you how many times people are using ChatGPT, and ChatGPT has put inaccurate information on resumes and cover letters that have cost people their jobs. I can't stress enough. Unfortunately, I've got kids, so I get on the TikTok and Snapchat.
You're cooler than me. Which, by the way, side plug, Terry could teach an entirely different masterclass on how to raise successful kids that leave the nest and do awesome things.
Thank you. You know, I was watching a star yesterday, an influencer, over 1 million followers. The first thing that she said was, here are 5 things you should lie about in an interview. I cannot stress how inaccurate that is. We should not be lying, not only as candidates, but yes, as companies, right?
Wow. Yeah.
We've got to specialize if we're going to market ourselves. I don't care what that specialization is. If it starts with, hey, I'm an expert in the life sciences industry, or I'm an expert in the fintech industry, that's great, because we can use that and we can chase after it and go different directions, right? And yes, do companies favor people in certain industries? Yes. Do companies favor certain skills? Yes. But let me tell you what, back in the old days, and I mean prior to the pandemic, you could take a C-suite executive, let's take IT because I know it, and I could take a CIO and I could represent that CIO to 5 or 10 companies, and I could probably get 70% interviews done with one person. Now I can take one person and I might be able to find them one job. Why? Because companies are taking a role, a position spec, and they're consolidating multiple roles into it because of the year that we've had financially. and they're creating a very difficult scope for companies and for people. And so now what has happened is when people look for someone, they want so many specialized skills that it's hard to figure out what they want. When we're taking in new roles and clients, I cannot tell you how critical each bullet point is on that job description. Every single bullet point, I'm going to tell you a secret. I used to rarely read job descriptions from my clients for years, and I made thousands of placements. I rarely read job descriptions. You know why? Because I'm just listening and looking at my client and hearing what they see, and I'm trying to feel their pain. I hate job descriptions. Now what we're seeing is some job descriptions are actually fairly decent. Why? Because we're getting so particular on exactly the experience we want. Is that good? Well, it's good because now we're going to try to match that with your skills. Is it bad though? Yes, because companies are trying to consolidate everything into one scope. And so things need to change on both sides.
Yeah, no, that's incredibly hard for job seekers, and it makes it hard to be a candidate that really stands out. And so let's talk a little bit about this. You're talking about your placements. This is a conversation we have with clients all the time. We're constantly trying to educate, how does a candidate or a company work with a recruiter, but really talk about what a recruiter and a recruitment firm like yours does, an executive search firm does, and how you work and who you can and can't place. Because, we get calls daily from candidates that say, I just want to work with a recruiter. And that's not always the right channel for job seekers, and it depends. And so talk a little bit about that. If you could put this on a billboard, what does that look like?
It's a great and loaded question. I think that first of all, there needs to be some understanding of working with a recruiting firm. Back in the 70s and 80s, people would pay recruiters to get a job. That highly switched in the 80s. We got into retained search, new markets started popping up. And since then, companies pay recruiting firms to hire. There's a lot of ways they can pay recruiting firms. They can retain us up front. That's historically how it would be done. But then there were a lot of issues because companies would pay a lot of money up front to companies to handle a search, and then it would never get filled, right? Broken issues on both sides with the firm, with the market, with the company. It doesn't matter. Either way, the historical way to handle recruitment was a company would pay us and that we go out to market, right? When we're working with candidates, this is the first year of me doing this business where I've had multiple executives offer to pay 10% of their salary to me,
right,
to get the job. And I can't tell you how much that hurts my heart. That's not how it should be. If we want to move that direction, then the whole market needs to move that direction, right?
Right.
But they shouldn't have to pay me the way we work. And most firms is we have a lot of clients out there that we're working with, and we're paid up front or we're paid upon delivery to identify specific people or projects or teams.
Yeah. And when you say clients, you mean companies, right? Just to be clear for everybody.
Yep. So I mean companies, that's right, that pay us or we sign an agreement to be paid upon placement. And we then go out to market. And the first thing we do is we always go to our network. And our network are the folks that talk to us. We like talking to people. That's, pretty much every recruiter is a type A, right?
And your team is amazing at this, having really meaningful conversations with candidates.
It really is. I'll tell you, the best relationships I have to this day are the folks where we just talk quarterly. And I'm not even talking about how's business, and we're talking about kids and their dog and, the life changes that we're going through. But we're there as a partner through life, and we care about your success because we as a recruiting firm have two customers. We have our company that pays us money, and we also have candidates, our job seeker. They don't pay us, but we spend a lot of time with them, and that's who we care about because this market we're in is crazy. What we're noticing is that, it's good to work with recruiters early and often. It's good to be 6 months out. If you are eyeing an opportunity for next quarter, contact us now and contact us every quarter. And you know what? Contact us just to go out and do an interview or two every now and then, because it's
Right.
good to stay fresh, right?
Oh, 100%.
I'm so sad when I hear that, executives, well, I haven't talked to anyone. I didn't know what the market was. And now I'm talking to people earlier this week that just surfaced. I don't know if they didn't watch the news or they've been in a basement, but people called this week. I'm looking for my next job. And I'm like, do you know what's going on? Do you
Right.
know?
Like, and it's interesting. Our typical client is someone who has built an amazing career through their network, getting promoted, getting recruited, whatever happens. And they find themselves at a level now where they've never had to take themselves to market at this level and in this market. And they haven't needed to in the past. And for some reason they need to now, or they want to now, or whatever that is. And either they don't have a great external network, or they have no idea what their value proposition is because they haven't had to articulate that, or, they don't have any of the documents or haven't been, active on LinkedIn. All of these other things can happen. But if you're not staying fresh, then having to start from scratch is really hard.
It is very hard. But we can help with that. You can help with that. Recruiters can help, right? We can introduce people all day long. There's a lot of introductions I make that I never get compensated for, but I feel like it's just the right thing to do. We have to work together, all of us. I think if you're gonna work with a company or recruiter, you've got to. Yes, you need to have some different resumes out there, right, with your team. Yes, you need to be specialized with your branding. Go to those groups and events. Become a mentor, find a mentor, maybe at another company. Ask us what events to go to. Look up Gardner and Advanta. Look at where McKinsey and BCG are going, right? Yeah. Look at your local groups in certain functions and participate in those, even in a small level. With recruiters, talk to us often. We want to know what you're seeing, and we want to be able to. It's important that we call you the minute we have something. Most recruiting firms are a don't call us, we'll call you, right? That makes sense. If I've spoken with you, my job is to contact you when we have something. The problem is things change, populations change, there's ebbs and flows to every market, industries go up and down. So stay in touch with us. I would say quarterly. I think that's important, but it's our job too to stay in touch with our clients, our candidates on a quarterly basis. It's important for us to work with people to say, hey, let's look at the market. Let's look at the regional market, right? For instance, if you want to talk about Amazon and RTO, that had a sincere effect to all of us. It was dramatic. The day they made that announcement of return to office, it was a literal domino effect in about 3 days to almost every company that's large enterprise. And it started to trickle down into the small, medium-sized businesses as well. It's a lot of conflict, lots of discussions. I've written about it. You've written about it. It is what it is. Here's the deal. The future of hiring is going to be regional hiring. It's going to be regional hiring or people that are willing to relocate. You're already going to have a leg up if you're willing to relocate or if you're looking in your region.
Right.
Do not spend time applying or trying to work with recruiters to work on a on-site role that is going to be in another city if you're not willing to relocate. That is already very, very obvious. There's a lot of lies out there on roles that are pitched as remote. They're just not there.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
When you work with a recruiter too, talk to us about the hard stuff up front. We want to know if you can't relocate. We want to know that you've got a mother that you're taking care of. We want to know your personal situation, because we're doing this for a living, making major changes in life decisions each day. But a job move, a career move, is one of the top 5 most stressful activities people have in life, right? There's marriage and there's all kinds, having kids, relocating, career. It's a big deal to get a job. We need to make it less of a big deal on our side. We want to make it a seamless activity. And in order to do that, we need to know everything up front. We do that so that we can make the best offer possible and negotiate the best way possible. We're noticing a lot of people not being honest up front.
Yep.
hiding where they're interviewing, playing offers against each other. That happened a lot last year, not so much this year, but that was a big issue. Nowadays, it's just stay in touch and talk a lot and look 6 months out at your next career. And then when you start working with us, work with other recruiting firms. We all talk.
Yes. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket. I mean, call Terry, absolutely, but don't put all of your eggs in one basket. I see David in the chat. Speaking of, thanks for the chat, guys. You guys are all doing amazing, and I love seeing the conversations. But there's a lot of people, I think sometimes people think you can't work with more than one person. And this is a question we get all the time. And you absolutely can and should.
Absolutely. Time kills all deals. I learned that a long time ago. Companies are not doing a good job at hiring right now. Most companies' hiring systems and tech and processes are broken. And I really would, if I were to ask a favor of everyone that's listening to this, I'd plead with you, when you are at your next company, or if you're there now, please meet with your CIO, meet with your HR executives, and let's address the elephant in the room. It doesn't matter which HRIS system you implemented or which one you did it. It's simply, what is the experience of employees and prospective employees, right? We've got to fix this and change this. I've had a lot of people that are sending out thousands of resumes a week. Horrible idea, right? It's back to specialization and relationships. If you don't know a recruiter, just reach out to us. We'll find one for you, right? There are a lot out there. Be honest, be transparent about everything as much as you're willing to, because I can work with that. What I can't work with is a lot of lying. I can't work with a lot of mistruths around why we're hiring people, or why you might want a job, or what your salary could be. And hey, we'll wait until the offer for that. That's the beauty of having us involved. We are the middleman, like a broker, right? Because companies are very tricky on saying what they want and don't want. There's a lot of laws and regulations of what they can and can't say. There's a lot of laws and regulations around salaries, right? Regulations around what I can and can't ask people. But if you tell me something, yes, I'm going to hear that. I always do it. And I'm going to use that to try to make the best connection. Specialize. Stay current with relationships and networking. Stay active on your LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the #1 spot every one of my clients go to. They'll look at a resume. I don't even look at resumes anymore, because what they do is they click on the LinkedIn. It better match the resume, by the way. A lot of issues there. But that's the first thing everyone goes. Not only if it's the churro, or if it's the board member, or if it's the CEO, they click on your LinkedIn and they're going to make a decision based on that. And based on, are you active in the market? If you're not posting every couple of weeks on LinkedIn, start posting. I don't care if it's about your dog, but it shows that you're active in the market. There's a lot of algorithms out there. Talk to as many people as possible. Be honest and open-minded and willing to make some little changes. And know that we're all in this together. It is a bad market. We have a serious supply-demand issue, and no one's talking about it. But we have too many C-suite and not enough jobs. So a lot of my C-suite are either now considering going to fractional work or interim work, 2, considering a new career, or 3, they are trying to edit how they think of their next job, and that maybe they don't need to be at the C-suite, and maybe they're willing to be an advisor or take on a vice president role or try another cross-functional role. So we all have to be creative and a little bit different in how we think about the future.
I love that. What an important point to end on. And a couple of things as we wrap up. First of all, thank you to everyone who stayed with us for this. This is a lengthier conversation than we typically have, but Terry has so much knowledge to share and so many important points. And the work that he does with candidates really aligns with what I see in the market and what our clients see too. So thank you for sticking with us here. And I've got one more question for Terry, but as we wrap up, I know there was a question in the chat, how do you find the recruiters to build relationships with? Well, certainly start with with Terry on the call, reach out to David, who's a recruiter who joined an event we did in Boston recently, who focuses in the marketing space. If I'm wrong about that, David, please pop that in the chat too. And then, for anyone looking to ramp up their networking strategy, ramp their value proposition in the market, ramp their reach outs to recruiters, those are all things that our team can help with. And reach out to Carmen Poff on our team. She'll pop her link in the chat again. But anyone who's interested in, even just kind of taking a look at your documents and saying, am I headed in the right direction? Is what I'm looking for an option? What, do I have what I need? Conversations about strategy. These conversations with Carmen do not need to be a sales call. It's more about seeing, is there a market fit? Do you need what we can help with? And what pieces is that? So don't feel like that's a, buy now in the next 30 seconds kind of a conversation. And David says, and dare I say, digital transformation. Hilarious. So I would love to hear from all of you in the chat. What tip, and I'll wrap up with Terry's final question here, but what tip or point or piece of advice did you hear today that resonated with you? What was meant for you today? What is something that you're going to take away from this conversation? Because I hope it was as valuable for you as any conversation I have with Terry is for me. So I'd love to see that in the chat, what you'll be taking away from this conversation. And while we see those come in, Terry, tell us where we can find you, how to find you and your team, and how we should all be connecting.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and send my email because I don't mind getting emails. And you can go to foxsearchgroup.com. You can find us anywhere on LinkedIn. We're on all the socials. So I'm happy to help. We all need to help. I'm not worried about our revenue this quarter. I'm worried about the next 3 years.
Right.
And it's going to take all of us to work together and have some really difficult discussions. And it really comes down to hiring has changed. Most companies are broken with hiring, not all of them, but most. And it's going to take all of us to figure this out together and work together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I appreciate that so much. And we'll pop Terry's email in the chat, and then make sure to follow him and his team on LinkedIn. Like I said, they share a ton of information about the executive search market and things like that. They have a newsletter. Make sure to subscribe to that. A lot of really helpful content. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Really excited about this conversation. And I'll be posting in the next few days. Our next LinkedIn Live will also be a special guest. Michelle Merritt will be interviewing our partner and friend Ezra Singer on executive compensation negotiation, which I know is something everyone really enjoys. So we'll dig into that. But in the meantime, thank you so much, Terry, for this conversation and everything.
Have a great day.
Thank you.